from Kilimo Trust. And sir, thank you very much. Anthony Mugambi is the Kenya team leader at Kilimo Trust. Thank you very much for making time to speak to us. I mean, this is a huge deficit. I know rice, reading history of rice was introduced early, in 1907 in the country. Our consumption has really grown. Maybe starting from there, why are we eating more rice as a country?
Amazing. Very, very, very good afternoon, Bwana Noah. Thank you for having me this afternoon. And you've asked a very good question because you said the rice is your favorite meal. For some of us, when we were growing up, we usually had rice once a year. That was during Christmas. Mm-hmm. And therefore, it is unlike today, mm-hmm. when every household, even in the most rural areas of Kenya, are now consuming rice more than 3 times a week. Sometimes that's the only meal they have throughout the week.
Yes.
This has been brought about by quite a number of factors, as you've asked. First of all, from the onset, let me state that Kenyan rice consumption in terms of growth rate is at over 12% per annum growth rate. That is annual rice consumption, meaning that that is a very huge growth rate, and it's actually almost threatening to overtake the major food staples as we know them, that is maize and wheat. And it actually, in terms of cereals, this is the third most consumed food staple.
Okay.
And therefore, this has been driven by very high rates of rural-urban migration. Okay. A lot of us now are living in the urban areas. Mm-hmm. Secondly, life now has become very fast-paced. People want to eat, food that you can cook very quickly. You arrive at your house, mm-hmm. you are tired, you are arriving at, say, 8 or 9, and you want to fix some quick supper. So rice cooks very fast. Okay. Secondly, there is an improvement in terms of world trade, and therefore accessing Vietnam rice, accessing Thailand rice becomes much more faster, and therefore there is that. But of course, they're changing lifestyles. Okay. A lot of people now, for some of us, think that consuming githeri is, in the past. We used to do that in school, and therefore it is cool to consume rice when you have when now you are out of the school system.
Actually, a lot of people term it as traumatic, which is unfortunate because once you reach in your 40s and your doctor is recommending githeri, you're like, oh, I'm cornered. But it's quite interesting also. Actually, my mom tells me, kula ugali kijana, usikule rice, utakuwa weak, And it's quite interesting that you've noted why rice consumption is going. Now let's talk about production in the country.
Yes.
It seems we are eating more than we can produce.
Sure.
What is the situation? Why aren't we producing enough to cater for our needs?
Another very good question. Of course, in terms of nutrition, a very quick one is that rice, the one that most doctors will always recommend for you and for everyone else, is that a lot of Kenyans are consuming, and actually East Africans are consuming white rice, which is not very healthy, of course. But whole grain, that is rice, what we call brown rice, that is rice that has not been polished. That's the most nutritious rice, as most doctors would or nutritionists would recommend. But let me say that in Kenya, we actually barely scratch in terms of, we just scratch the surface in terms of our national per capita consumption, where Kenya is only able to produce only 80% of its national needs. And therefore, we have to import over 80%, as you've rightly put it out there. But why is that the case? First, it's in terms of course, rice has not been a traditional food staple in Kenya until recently, when the growth rate for consumption has gone very high. And therefore, in terms of productivity, in terms of research, there has been very low adoption of, improved technologies for rice production.
Okay.
But also we have limited ourselves to very limited areas for rice production. For instance, over 80% of our rice production in Kenya comes from just a small area in Kenya called Moya. Whereas we have huge potential areas like in the coast, Tana River, Taita Taveta. We have the entire western Kenya belt is very suitable for rice production. But also we have this notion that rice can only grow in flooded or swampy areas or under flooded situations, which is not the case. We are able. There is rice that you can actually grow just like you grow maize. You just plant, and it's rain fed, and you harvest just like you do maize.
Okay.
But people, when you mention rice production, they have pictures of what comes into their mind is Ahero flooded fields, Moya flooded fields, which is not the case.
Okay, yeah. Definitely. So as Kilimo Trust, you're saying that it's time to shift narrative. We have more potential as a country to produce. We are not tapping into that. What are you doing to make sure that we are embracing this new form? For example, the rain-fed rice planting other than the traditional wetland areas.
Thank you very much, Noah. As you might have, as you have correctly pointed out, Kilimo Trust is one of the organizations in Kenya that has been pushing the agenda of rice promotion or rice production promotion in Kenya, which is also very well captured under the current government's bottom-up economic transformation agenda under the agricultural pillar. One of the major pillars that they are pursuing is what we call import substitution. Of course, we have food security, which rice ticks that box very well. But of course, there is this aspect of import substitution. There are other value chains or other commodities that the government is targeting under import substitution. I'm not speaking on behalf of the government, but I'm speaking from what I find in the public, is in the public knowledge, that the current government is pursuing rice, among other commodities, to achieve import substitution. What is that? You've just correctly pointed out there that Kenya just last year, spent over 54 billion Kenya shillings to import rice. That's just rice. We've not mentioned oil, we've not mentioned all those other things. So that is forex or foreign exchange that we've actually put out there. And here we are crying that we don't have enough dollars within the country. So therefore, we want to help the government bridge that gap in terms of local production, on domestic production, so that we are able to cut down on imports, and we have those resources here. And therefore, one of the issues that we're handling is producing rice away from those flooded traditional areas like Moya, Ahero, and others, to promote what we call upland rice. And we have varieties that we've worked with the Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization, CARO, very closely with other partners to ensure that we promote those varieties that are suitable for those conditions.
Okay, definitely. And as we close up, because our time is running out, in terms of embracing these new varieties, so far, how's been the experience on the ground, and what can be done to boost uptake?
Amazing. First of all, let me say from the onset that to boost uptake, we need serious collaboration with the government, other stakeholders within the sector, both the government and non-governmental organizations.
Yes.
So far, we've been partnering very closely with CARO, as I said, within the government. There's a program within the Ministry of Agriculture called Rice Promotion Program. We have other partners, bilateral partners like Japan, like South Korea, that has been supporting this. And therefore, what we need to do is a high sensitization of farmers, ensuring that these technologies, particularly rice varieties that are suitable for those areas, that we conduct demonstrations. So far, we just started this last year in 3 counties, and the 2 counties have taken this very, very seriously, Meru and the Tharaka-Nithi counties. And so far, we've trained over 5,000 farmers, and slightly over 1,000 farmers already have upland rice in their farms. And they've already started adopting very elaborate systems to ensure that they acquire rice milling machines within the localities.
Definitely. Good progress right there. Thank you very much, Anthony, for your time. Anthony Mugambi is the Kenya team leader, Kilimo Trust, and he says that we can do something in regards to bridging that deficit, and so far they're doing something, working with the farmers to make sure that there is uptake of upland rice varieties. Apart from that, ensuring that technology, these farmers are equipped properly to make sure that production is even easier and more efficient and more proficient. And on that rice note, so put a full stop to Business Today. I'm Nakib Kimboy.